Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lattes on My Mind.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Felina. What are we talking about today, Hannah?
We're going to be talking about Robin Hood.
Ooh, so grab your lattes and join us for the journey.
So what's up,
Oh,
Felina?
not much. Just rearranged our living room a little bit. It's pretty much the same, but you know.
But the plants have light.
But the plants have light. So what we
That's
did
what you
was
told
we
me.
moved. We had a table. We have 2 couches in our living room. They're like love seats.
Yeah.
We got them for free, and they're really nice. So we had no table in between the 2 of them, and then we had one table on the side of one of them, and then the other side people could use like the bookshelf
For
like there was a clear spot on the bookshelf if they had like a drink or something, they could set it there. But we separated the couches and we moved the table in between so that my plants had light, because a bunch of my plants aren't getting enough light.
The poor things.
And yeah, so that was our big to do. I made 2 loaves of bread today, not one.
I'm so proud of you.
2. Yeah.
I slept until 12.
As you should.
And then I did my notes.
8 a.m.
Why?
Because Marshall wakes up
Marshall,
early.
I swear that man.
He wakes up early. And so now I wake up. I mean, it worked out. I got Chick-fil-A breakfast and we got to go to Shoe Carnival to look at shoes because I desperately need a new pair of shoes.
You do need some new shoes. Not like saying that insultingly, but like
like they're worn through. Like
the same one.
Literally the heel is worn through.
I think I've seen you clean your shoes twice in the office.
Yeah, because they're gross. We saw my shoes at Shoe Carnival. And I compared the 2.
The color.
And it was disgusting. It's absolutely vile.
You were like, oop.
But we always go on Black Friday. We always go to Shoe Carnival and we go there last. So I wanted to go and look and see like what styles they have, what options they have. Like
to
pick
prepare
a couple out to see which ones I want. That way, whenever we go to Shoe Carnival, I can just grab them and go. And also to see which size I am. That way I don't have to be trying them on, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm a size 10.5.
Hey, yeah.
But they don't have 10.5s.
No.
So it's either 10 or 11 and it depends on the shoe. So my shoe, I'm a 10, but and they were all Nikes, but in the other style of 2 of the shoes, I'm an 11 because the 10 is too tight.
I guess it depends on like how wide the
style,
shoe is and style.
Yeah. So, but on the other shoe, I'm a 10.
Yeah.
So
I'm usually safe to do 8.5.
Yeah.
Like
when they usually have 8.5.
They usually do.
The halves kind of stop at 9.
It sucks. Yeah.
Once you hit 9 or
You're
once
done
you hit 10, the halves stop.
They're like, who are you?
Literally.
It's so rude. Well, because like Wes is the same way. Like he has to get like a bigger size. Yeah. And like even when we were talking about for his ring. So it's like, and he has to get tall shirts. And it's like, I wish people would accommodate more.
Shirts too.
Yeah.
And Old Navy does have tall shirts.
Yeah.
And
Kohl's
Old Navy has tall shirts in stock most of the time.
Really?
Not in every style, but most of the time you can find something for tall.
Yeah.
But my uncle and my papa are both tall as well. So
they all got it.
My uncle's like 6'7", so he like needs it. So yeah.
Well, see, my uncles are like 6'2", and then all of us are short.
Yeah.
Because my mom is shorter.
Yeah.
But
it's rough out there for my tall folks.
It is.
I'm not gonna lie. The tall folks, they need help.
They need help.
It's tough.
You know who else needed help?
Who else needed help?
The poor.
Oh, the poor
of
the
Nottingham. Yeah, so today we're talking about Robin Hood. Felina, what can you tell me about Robin Hood just off the... Are you a Robin Hood fan? I'm a Robin Hood fan.
Well, like Robin Hood, like what kind of Robin Hood fan? Like comic book Robin Hood or like movie Robin Hood or like
movies? Like we watched like the Errol Flynn one, like the old live action Disney, the cartoon Disney.
I think I watched one.
Have you ever seen the cartoon?
No.
Please. Stop.
I don't think I have. What I know about Robin Hood is he was a thief and he would steal from the rich and give it to the poor.
Okay. So you know
the premise.
The basic. And that he wears Lincoln green.
Yes, he always wears green. Yes, he has a green hood.
Right.
Which is Robin Hood.
Robin Hood. And sometimes he has a hat.
I didn't know he had a hat.
That's a green hat with a feather. Well, I mean, in like all the movies.
Yeah, he does have a feather.
Yeah.
In some of them.
Yeah, like a red one. But I say that because like my sister, she would read all the books. Like there's lots of different versions of books. Yes. Like we're going to talk about, because there's so much controversy about who Robin Hood is or was.
So Robin Hood was it's like Saint Nick, right? He's a real person.
No.
Oh.
So that's what we're going to talk about. That's why I wanted to talk about it.
Oh,
because
I thought it was like based off of a real guy.
I thought so too. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it because kind of, but not. Okay.
Well, so I mean, Saint Nick.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're listening to this in front of your kids.
don't
Maybe don't.
Don't tell them about Saint
Maybe
Nick.
Stop.
But like we were just like, I don't know, different versions of Robin Hood. Like we were fans of. And like I wanted to tell you this. You know how I used to make like home movies with my siblings?
Naturally, as one does.
So me and my sisters like reenacted a Robin Hood scene from like one of the movies.
This is beautiful. We need to get this footage.
No, because I was the sheriff of Nottingham, and my sister.
The footage.
I know. I was like, "Do you have this?" Till I just texted my sisters. They drew like a beard on me, like with eyeliner or something. So I had a beard.
This is beautiful.
And so my sister Leanna was Robin Hood. And then like my other two sisters were like the merry men, because like he has like all his little following of men.
Yes.
And so it was like we quoted the exact scene from the movie. Like it was like a reenactment.
Side note, isn't it crazy how you can do that as a child, but then you can't remember where you put your keys 2 minutes ago as an adult?
Right. You asked me to remember something now. I'm like, what year was it?
I can recite every word of the scene from Pride and Prejudice, but I cannot tell you where I put this.
Now, we were like teenagers, so I don't want to act like...
Even
we were
teenagers
babies.
are like I could.
We were older.
Like I did theater, so memorizing lines, piece of cake.
Right.
If I had to memorize lines now, I think I would rather die.
Right. Like I don't think I could do it anymore. Like I used to be really good at like memorizing Bible verses, like things like that. I'm like, I can't even remember it now.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's that passage that says the
this
swine.
is the gist of it.
Right. Anyway, so we quote the whole scene, and then like we have an end scene, and I don't remember if this was actually part of like what we did, but they like offer the sheriff food. Like they're trying to make him eat the like poached deer. Like, you know how they weren't allowed to hunt the king's deer? Oh. Like if you weren't like...
I don't remember that.
Okay, so like...
Again, I didn't really watch a bunch of them. I think I watched one.
Did you watch like the BBC show?
No.
Like the television series?
No.
Okay.
It was like relatively...
Prince of Thieves, maybe? There's like one that's like Prince of Thieves. There's a Russell Crowe one. There's one with Carrie Elwes, who's the guy from Princess Bride. I haven't seen those two actually, which is crazy because those are the more probably popular ones. They made a new one with Taron Egerton.
I was about to say, isn't he in
He's like
Kingsman?
Modern. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I was about to say, I watched the one with the guy from Kingsman. I knew the story of it before I watched it.
Because you know, everyone knows.
Yeah.
I can't believe you haven't seen the Disney cartoon where he's a fox.
No, I haven't seen that.
They're animals.
Yeah.
It's
I
such
know
a good
about
one.
it. I just haven't seen it.
You got to go watch it. I don't know if it will hit the same. It was like our childhood, movie, like our film. Like it's just so funny. It's a good one. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh,
I said we need the footage.
Shayna, if you're listening to this, find the footage. But
find the footage and send it to me. I will post it to our Instagram.
No, you won't. I'm so scared that they're gonna like send me the home videos one day, and then Wes is gonna have to watch all of them, and I'm gonna be like the most embarrassed person.
Wes,
because like me and David,
no, they should send it to Wes. And then that way Wes gets to watch all of them before you delete them.
He will use it as blackmail.
He should. And I'm going to need Wesley to send them straight to me as well. For a backup. You never know.
So the reason why it's like in that time period, the deer like belonged to the king. Like if you were hunting illegally, like you could be caught and like captured. Like if you were common folk. And so that's why they would like be starving and stuff, because they couldn't hunt the deer without like the king's permission and stuff like that. So
is that where hunting license come from?
Probably. Yeah. Like back in like when the land like belonged to the king.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably why, we have them today and stuff. I don't know.
I know some of the reason that we have them is so that like you're like
not killing off
the entire species.
Right.
And
like
there's none left, like
chaos or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that.
But maybe that it has its roots. I think stuff like this.
Yeah. Probably.
So like the story goes, and like this is like the stories of Robin Hood. So like if in the outlaws. You would be outlawed for like whatever the king decided. And so you would go live in the woods or whatever. And so like in Robin Hood, they would hunt the deer because they don't care. They're already outlaws. And so in the in the reenactment that we did, they're like making the sheriff eat the deer that they hunted. So it's like poached deer. And so at the end, we did this thing where they were like offering me like different things, and I was like, I refuse to eat this that's poached or whatever. And then at the end, they like put like Starburst jelly beans on the plate, and I said, I don't care how you got these. And I don't know, it was so weird. It was so weird. But anyway, that's my story. I was like, I have to tell Felina this story. I was like, did we not
so were
do
the
this?
jelly bean you said, or Starburst jelly beans?
They were Starburst jelly beans.
Were the jelly beans representing the deer?
Yes.
Okay.
Because
you obviously don't have deer meat.
Right, we don't have deer meat.
Didn't think bacon or anything.
I can't remember. I think we might have done like one with like chicken or something.
Oh.
And then at the end we did like bloopers, like to be funny, and like we did different things.
Yeah.
I think. We might have just done them. It might have been like a peep or something, to be honest with you. It was like it was something, you know. I can't remember because I just was texting them. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, I was just thinking about this like dark memory where I was the sheriff.
Do you like Peeps?
No, I hate them.
Okay, good. Oh, good. I was about to say we can no longer be friends.
I don't like them. I think Wes likes them. I'm like,
ew, Wesley.
This is coming from someone who likes candy corn, though. Come on.
Candy corn is widely accepted.
Is widely accepted. So are Peeps.
Peeps.
I
don't think I know anyone who actually genuinely is like, I'm craving a Peep. You know?
I think I do. My sister likes them.
Really?
Yeah. The best thing about Peeps is when you put them in the microwave and you stab little toothpicks in them and then they joust. Have you ever done that? They blow up and whoever stabs the one first. Have you ever done that?
I think Hannah was a little bored as a child.
No, we did all sorts of cool, fun stuff.
The Peeps were murdering each other over here.
Do not tell me that you wouldn't. Okay. Do not tell me that wouldn't be
now
fun.
I'm just going to go buy Peeps just to do it, though. I'm not going to eat them. I'm just going to see
it's fun.
what they do.
So I have not even gotten to my notes, but that's the the Robin Hood story. Like he's this outlaw that goes and lives in the woods and usually
feeds the sheriff deer meat.
Yes. Like the sheriff of Nottingham is like his like rival.
Yeah, because he's an outlaw.
Mm-hmm. And then like, you know, he marries Maid Marian, as the story usually goes, and there's the Friar Tuck and his like sidekick is Little John and stuff like that. So
okay,
but they call him Little John because he's huge. So it's like a a joke. But so that's like kind of like the widely accepted, that's Robin Hood. Okay.
Gotcha.
Now, he's one of the greatest known figures in English like folk tales. Like he's really popular, but it's not certain that he even ever existed.
So it is in England.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's in England. And for most part, he was thought to be a fictional character, but then in 1521, it was like this Scottish historian.
Back there.
Oh yeah, it's like really old.
1500s.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and the stories go back to like 1100s. Is like where they think that Robin Hood.
Well, so he probably was a real person,
right? Which
if
is
that's the case.
We're gonna talk about how he's probably inspired by like a lot
of different things. Okay.
But they're like, we don't know if this one figure, Robin Hood, is real. That kind of person, but like
it's like here was an outlaw,
right?
That's where we get that.
He's
from.
An amalgamation.
This guy did this to the sheriff, so that's where we get that from. And then this happened, and that's where we get like it's like a compilation of a bunch of different guys. Okay.
So in 1521, this guy, I think he was like a Scottish historian. He, for the first time, called Robin Hood a historical figure.
Okay.
And he claimed that he lived during the reign of King Richard the Lionheart, which is usually when the story is set. Like in the later stories, it was Richard the Lionheart and his brother King John. And King John and Richard the Lionheart were actually like real people.
Okay.
But they're always like the kings in the story and their brothers.
Gotcha.
And the story goes, if you don't know the story very well, sorry, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but since you are as familiar, they always like consider King Richard like the true king, and that Prince John or King John is like the usurper, and he's like trying to take over while his brother's away fighting in the Crusades.
But he's king.
Right. But he like actually became king after his brother died in like real history.
Oh.
And like in history, it was like either of them weren't like fantastic kings. So they don't know why like they made King Richard look so good in the stories. They don't know, like they're not, either of them are
probably because he died.
Probably. I mean, King Richard did die, and then John took over.
Well, I mean, like, you know how, like, when a kind of crappy person dies, but everybody's like, they were wonderful.
They were what? Yeah, you're like, were they really?
Were
they? And then they were like, King John, who was the younger son, which is probably why they were like, he shouldn't be in charge.
Because he was the younger son.
Now, they both, like, had their issues, like, because I think that, like, and this is from memory, so I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but, like, King Richard was fighting in the Crusades, and, like, he didn't really care about England that much. I mean, he cared about England, but he didn't really care about his people. Like, he was all fighting all these wars. That's why it's like, why would they like him so much? He cared about
expanding England.
Right. And then he also, like, had them pay, like, ransom money to release him because he got, like, captured. And that's a lot of the story of Robin Hood, where they're, like, trying to raise money to get King Richard back and get rid of Prince John.
Oh.
But it's, like, really confusing because Prince John, like, he wasn't, like, a good king, but he wasn't, like, he was actually, like, interested in, like, helping England. So I was like, why is Richard...
Maybe England didn't want to be helped. Maybe they had some slim shady stuff going on, and they didn't want a king lurking around. Side note, I was singing that the other day.
So was I.
And Hannah started singing along, but Hannah only knows
one line.
One singular line. So I went, and Dr. Dre said, and she goes, please stand up.
Please stand up.
Nothing. No, nope. Dr. Dre, no.
Well, because you said it, and then I said, please stand up, which was right. And then you said that line. I said, please stand up, please stand up.
I didn't know you only knew that
It's the only line I knew.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Robin Hood.
So he became, like, a really, like, popular, well-recognized figure even in, like, the 16th century. So we're talking 1500s. Mm-hmm. And they had this celebration called May Day. May Day.
Whoa.
Not like that, but, like, it was, like, May Day, like, I think, like, a spring celebration.
In May.
Yes. And they would, like, come to these festivals or whatever they were, like, dressed as Robin Hood. They would have plays about Robin Hood and stuff. So, like, by that time, like, he became such, like, a staple.
Yeah, he was like a well-known figure.
Yeah. And even, like, King Henry VIII got in a Robin Hood costume, and, like, he, like, went into the bedroom of his wife, his, like, new wife, like, dressed as Robin Hood. I don't know what happened after that. But exactly. But he was like, which was Catherine of Aragon, that wife, because you know how King Henry VIII has, like, a million wives.
Aragon.
But, like,
every time you say Aragon, I think of
Aragorn.
Yeah.
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 It's very close. There's Aragon, which is, like, the dragon guy.
Yeah.
And then Aragon, which is Catherine of Aragon, like, in England, and then Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So,
the more you know.
Yes. So it was so popular, like, even among the royalty, like, where they were, like, emulating this guy.
The literal king.
The literal king was like, I'm going to dress as Robin Hood, and they would have all these.
Which is interesting.
I know.
Because you would think he would not like Robin Hood.
You would think.
Because he's stealing from the
rich.
But
I mean, if he's a fictional
character, he is the rich.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, he became a symbol of, like, he's stealing from the rich and, like, helping the poor. So it's not really like a royalty story.
No, it's not at all.
Maybe they thought it was novel, you know, like, oh, the little peasants all trying to steal from us.
To steal from us when they know they can't.
So I kind of talked about this already, but in the stories, sometimes Robin Hood was a noble himself who was, like, disinherited from his fortune.
Okay.
And
I think I've heard that.
Yeah, like, he was actually, and they stripped him of his lands and stuff like that. Yeah. And he went and fought on the Crusades, and then he comes back, and, like, the sheriff's in charge, and there's, like, you know, all this stuff going on. You good?
Yes.
I'm boring her already.
No, it's another later recording.
We've just changed to
We've
late
just accepted
evenings.
It.
But people are like, they, like, say he's from, like, lots of different places. They say he lived during lots of different reigns because people don't really know.
They don't know who. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's not one person who he is.
Right.
Like, I think we've established.
Right.
Know, like,
so they'll sometimes say he lived during, like, Richard the Lionheart's, which is John's brother, or, like, Henry III or Edward III. And that he was from Nottinghamshire. He was from Yorkshire. Or like, so, like, it's all over the place.
Nobody knows.
No one knows. And there's these, like, manuscripts in the British Museum called the Sloane manuscripts that say he was born in 1160 in Locksley, which is, like, another Locksley, which is, I don't know where that is. But,
the 1100s.
Right. So, like, from anywhere from, like, the 1300s to the 1100s, there's, like, he was born then. He lived during this king's reign. He lived during this king's reign.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I know. I'm like, what in the world? But most of the stories that you read today is like Prince John. So
okay,
that's kind of what they've stuck with. So in the older tales, like in the original tales of Robin Hood, he's not a rich guy. He's something called a yeoman, which is like not a peasant, but he's also not rich. So he's kind of like
he's middle class.
Middle class,
okay.
yeah. So he's first mentioned in literature.
Oh.
Like as a fictional character in 1377.
So, okay. Well, here's my thing then. Could it not be he's mentioned in literature, so this is what inspired it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But like inspired
the tale of Robin Hood.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like he could either have been a fictional guy who inspired all these other outlaws, or he could have been real and then inspired all these stories, but like they don't know who he was or something like that. Like it could go either way.
Yep.
But it was written in something called The Vision of Piers Plowman, which is a poem written by a William Langland. And the quote goes, I want you to read the quote.
Okay. Oh boy, she's going to make me read out loud.
It's in Old English.
This is like flashbacks to Hannah. You can't relate, but the people can.
Going
if
to school?
They weren't homeschooled. This is like flashbacks to when the teacher would like popcorn read and then just randomly call your name and you'd be like, I don't know what to say. or if she had an order and then you would be like, is it in purple?
It's in purple.
Okay. Or she would have like an order and you would like count how many lines down you would be and then you just read your thing and then you got none of the rest of the story.
We had to do that though in like Sunday school and stuff, like where we had to read Bible verses out loud.
That's awful.
All right, I want you to read this.
Why do you hate me?
Because I think it would be funny if you read it.
Listen, why is it spelled like this?
It's Old English.
It says I cannot, but it says I cannot, but it's spelled IKANNOGHT.
Yep, I cannot.
Perfectly. Why do you hate me? Hold on. Am I going cross-eyed or is that how it is?
That's literally what it says.
I cannot perfectly my paternoster. She's getting such a big... As the priest? That's not how you spell priest.
Nope, it's not.
It's singeth?
Singeth.
Okay. SYNGETH.
Mm-hmm.
But I can rhymes of Robin Hood.
Good job. And she's looking for him. So
what is that one word though?
This is the line, paternoster.
Yeah.
So essentially what it translates is I cannot perfect the Lord's Prayer in Latin as the priest sings it, but I can rhyme of Robin Hood. So
okay, I don't understand how that translates, but sure.
Right. So that's Old English.
Old English can kiss my butt.
Old English is like a whole other language. People don't realize that it's not like legible.
It's not just English. Yeah.
But so the reason why I had you read this because I just thought it would be funny. But also, this guy who wrote this poem, he mentions it. The person who mentions it in the poem is like a commoner. Okay. So it's like Robin Hood was so well known that like the common people would have been talking about him, and he says it like everyone knows who Robin Hood is. So like at this time, like you didn't need to tell the story, but you're like, I can tell you the story of Robin Hood because everyone knew it. So this was written in 1377.
So he's basically saying,
yeah,
I can't tell you what
the Lord's
Prayer is, but I can tell you the story of Robin Hood.
Right.
Oh, yeah. So it's probably that he was well known.
Yeah.
And this is just the first literary mention.
Right.
Okay.
This is the first literary mention. That's the thing is like, this is the first time he's mentioned in fiction, but like orally they would have been telling these stories. That's why we don't know a lot of like, was he actually a real guy? And people were just like sharing the story and then never wrote it down.
Until later. Yeah.
And so now it's changed so much.
Well, but a bunch of people in the 1100s, I feel like they didn't know how to write.
No one knew
for the most part.
Right.
You know, like
they didn't know how to write or read.
Anyone who would want that to be remembered wouldn't know how to write.
And most of the writings were in Latin too. That's why he said that.
There we go. Yeah.
They can't read that. But originally Robin Hood was a lot more rough and ready than the later stories. Like he was like violent, and there wasn't really a lot of mention of him giving to the poor in the earlier stories.
So he just stole?
Probably he just stole from the rich.
So he was just a thief?
He was literally just a thief. But like
cute.
In the 15th century, a ballad was written called A Little Guest of Robin Hood. I don't know what that means.
A little?
A little? It's spelled like Lyttel.
It's so weird. Why do they spell it like
I don't know.
That? So unnecessary.
It is unnecessary. I couldn't tell you. Probably because it was taken from Latin or something, like Latin spellings.
Yeah.
But this is the first possible idea of him like giving to the poor. Like in the poem, he says, "If he be a poor man, of my good he shall have some," which I mean, I guess just means like he can have money.
Yeah.
So originally, not really what he was doing, and then in the 15th century, this is like the first time where they're like, okay, well, this one he's kind of like talking about giving to the poor. So slowly, and like when it reached like May Day time, when I was talking about like their like celebrations,
is that basically just like Easter?
Kind of like it has like a sinister, like it's like a sinister. Oh, you mean like the holiday?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's like where they like, I don't know. I'm not really sure what May Day is.
Maybe that's the next episode.
It's a spring celebration is all I know.
Okay. So Easter.
But like,
I mean, not Easter,
not
but
Easter,
like Easter
but yeah.
basically.
I mean, I guess they would have been celebrating Easter then.
Yeah.
Kind of. Just differently, obviously. But, what was I saying? Oh, so he started out kind of like more sinister and like more just like a thief. And then by the time it got to like the Mayday stuff and like this story here where he's like giving to the good people, he kind of has lost his like villainous side. He's kind of more, he's the hero.
More accepted. Yeah.
So, okay. Now, one thing that's interesting that they're like, this could be a possible explanation for why this name has shown up in history as Robin Hood is because people who were called Robert, they had the nickname of Robin a lot of the times. And Robert was like a super common name in the medieval period. Like everyone was named Robert. I know. Robert. I don't know.
Well, I'm flabbergasted that Robert was a popular name.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the 1500s?
Like in the 1100s and 1200s.
It just doesn't seem like
Robert?
Name.
No.
Yeah.
You're like,
would be popular then.
Yeah, it was. It was Robert. And apparently a very popular last name was Hood or Hud or Hod.
So it could just be that there was a guy named Robert Hood.
Robert Hood or whatever. Yeah. Because it was such a popular name. And people would also nickname people who like wore hoods or who like made hoods because they were like people who created hoods and stuff like whatever. Yeah. You know how they had like cobblers and things like that who made shoes.
Yeah.
They would nickname these people Hood like as a last name if you like wore a hood.
So it could be that there was someone named Robert who made hoods who stole something and he's all of a sudden Robin Hood.
Right.
Okay.
So one very early legal record, which is like the first legal record, mentions a Robert Hod that lived in 1226. So this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And apparently his possessions were taken and he was outlawed.
Okay.
And there's like a legal record of him. Now, in the 13th century, like we said, Robe Hood or Robin Hood or whatever, there were lots of variations. It was believed that it was used as a synonym for criminals or outlaws in general. So it was like they would just put, this person like
is a Robin
Hood.
Okay.
So it became like synonymous with that.
Gotcha.
So, and it was like, okay, so did Robin Hood, the outlaw, did he become Robin Hood because that's what they would use for criminals, or did these criminals become Robin Hood because of the story? So it's like it could go either way because they don't know when necessarily, like, because this is like the 1200s.
Yeah.
So it could either be that
they don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they don't know which one he was.
Which
called.
one came first, the Robin or the Hood?
Right. Exactly. So they're just like, we just know that it was used for outlaws or criminals. So it could be that they're literally reading all this stuff and like Robin Hood did this and Robin Hood did that.
Yeah.
But it could be like 10 other guys.
It could be like 30 people are Robin Hood because they're all outlaws.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And that's just their, dare I say, their slur term for an outlaw or something, you know?
Yeah. Really. Yeah.
It could be. It could be like an insult.
And you don't want to be called that or something, you know? So there is technically something called the Grave of Robin Hood, like in England. It's a headstone in Yorkshire, England.
It could be Robert
Hod.
Yeah, Hod.
But the grave is in this place called Kirkley's Priory.
Prairie or Priory?
Priory, like a churchyard. I think that's what that word it means.
Oh, okay.
Priory. But it says, here beneath this little stone lays Robert, Earl of Huntingdon. Never was an archer so good as he, and people called him Robin Hood. Such outlaws as he and his men will England never see again. Now, the writing on the stone looks like Old English, but
isn't.
But it has been determined by certain researchers that like this type of medieval text was popular in the 1800s. And also,
so someone was named Robert. What is it?
So that name, Robert Earl of Huntingdon,
yeah,
was a name that was only given to Robin Hood, like before he becomes an outlaw.
Oh.
It was written in 1746. Okay. He didn't get this title until 1746, the Robert Earl of Huntingdon, and the fact that it's on this gravestone that says he died like in the, I think it's like what, the 1200s or something.
So it's a lie.
They think it's a hoax. Yeah, they think the grave is a hoax.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, there's like one thing that like might possibly show that he lived was his grave, and yet research has shown that it's like we don't think that this is a real. We don't think
this is real because
grave.
They didn't use this name until the 1700s.
Right.
And if he's supposed to be from the 1200s,
that doesn't make sense.
The math does not match.
Right.
Unless he's a vampire.
And one of the reasons why I guess it would be in that place is because there were stories. The stories go like that when Robin Hood was dying, he shot an arrow and was like, where this lands, you'll bury me. And I think it was like near this priory. So someone probably, I don't know who would do it and why.
Just for the fun.
Yeah.
Funsies.
I mean, because it literally was like, oh, he's known as Robin Hood.
Probably didn't think anything would come of it, honestly, until...
Right. No one's going to believe this.
Right. And then, oh, surprise.
Maybe they made it like as like just like a little historical like memorial, and people were like, oh, it's a grave.
Yeah, maybe they were like, oh, here's Robin Hood, because the story goes, you know, like towns have like their weird little things that it's like, oh, yeah, this happened. Not really, but we have this because of it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, so that's kind of like the background of like the Robin Hood portion of it. Like these guys could be called Robin Hood. Now I'm going to talk about two guys that could possibly be like the inspiration for Robin Hood. So like they weren't named Robin Hood,
but they're the inspiration.
Possibly.
Okay.
Some people are like, they could totally be the inspo, and some people are like, absolutely not. That's bullcrap. You know how people.
Yeah.
It's.
Everybody has opinions.
Everyone has opinions. So like Robin Hood could essentially be like an amalgamation of people. You know what I mean? Like he could be just this figure that represents people of the time who were outlaws and fighting the, rich and stuff like this. So our first guy, his name is Willikin of the Weald.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Who?
Willikin of the Weald.
Willikin of the Weald.
Willikin of the Weald.
Wow, that's an iconic name.
No, that's not actually his name. His name is William. So
naturally, William could. Wait, hang on. William Willikin.
Well, he was nicknamed Willikin, so I don't really know why.
William Wild?
William of Cassingham was his name.
Okay.
He lived in the 13th century, so 1200s. Now he became a hero to the English people, and they named him Willikin of the Weald. So that's his nickname.
Because he was a hero? Like that was his hero name?
Yeah, because we'll talk about the Weald, what that is.
Okay.
He was from Sandhurst, Kent in England, and he was great with the longbow. So there's our first.
He's an archer.
He's an archer, which is the biggest thing about Robin Hood, as you know.
Robin Hood is an archer.
And he's supposedly like the greatest shot and whatever. He like splits his own arrow. I don't know if you've seen that, but like he'll shoot the arrow and then like split it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can totally do that.
Yeah, I could too.
Anyone can do that. Come on now.
So this guy, William or Willikin, as we'll call him. It's just fun.
So Willie,
we'll call him Willie. He was a loyalist who aided the English against Louis VIII's troops, who were the French, who were trying to invade England. Okay, from about like 1216 to 1217, he was fighting these guys. So England is at war with France, and I guess he's like asked by. He's like he isn't like a soldier or anything, but he's asked by Prince John or King John at this time.
Okay. So we're back in this time period.
We're back in the time period. So 1216 to 1217. Because I think King John ruled from 1199 to 1216 over England. So that's pretty, I mean.
Okay. So 17 years?
17 years. Yeah. Which is pretty, like, that's kind of crazy because I feel like they
went
don't
through them a little bit.
Yeah, they didn't really give him that much credit, I feel like, in Robin Hood. Like, it seems like he's just in for like a little while and they're trying to get rid of him or something.
Yeah. No, they're just fed up with him.
Right.
For some reason. We don't know why.
Well, it's supposed to be like he's taxing the people heavily and all that stuff.
Well,
but I feel like both of them were probably.
They were at war, people.
Right, with France. And so this guy, we don't know his birth and like lineage. It's like not really known.
Oh, cool.
But it's thought that he was like a young man, like at the time of this invasion. So I don't know, like 20s or like younger. I don't know. Like,
well, we have
later
to think
20s.
this is the
I know.
1200s, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't live long then. So a young man might be like 16.
Right.
You know?
He
like,
could be, yeah. I thought it said he was like 20s, but I could be wrong. That might have just been.
I feel like 20s is middle age.
20s is middle age then. But so the Weald was essentially this area in England that was like a lot of forests.
Okay.
So that's why, I don't know, I guess that's what they called it, the Weald. It was like a big area, stretch of forests and like little villages and things like that. And it was also like a hiding spot for certain criminals. Okay?
Certain Robin
Hoods. Well, but the thing is, this guy that we're talking about like was not a criminal actually. That's why it's like, could he be Robin Hood? But the reason why they think
it could be based off him.
Yeah. Is because essentially when the French were coming through, he gathered like local hunters together. And he like, it was possibly like around 1,000 archers, although some people think that's like an exaggerated amount.
That's a lot.
It's
archers.
a lot. But anyways, as the French were coming through, they would hide in the woods. And because they like knew the woods really well and the French didn't, they could like easily travel through the woods. Whereas the French were like, we don't know this area. And they were taking forever to get
and
through.
they don't know like what animals are in there either.
Right.
So it's like, okay.
Right. And it's just hard to navigate through
woods know.
in general. But they would like essentially, I guess they said like this is kind of like the first examples of like what they call guerrilla warfare, where they would like hop out, they would shoot the French, and then they would go back in, and then they would travel, go again, and hit them at another spot, just like pop out of the woods.
Yeah.
So it was like a hit and run like sort of tactic where they would.
That's fun.
Yeah. So and it was like all archers.
Good on you, mate.
Right. So he just gathered this band of people, and like I said, I think Willikin did.
Okay.
So, and he would like. I don't know if he was asked. I think he was asked by Prince John to like protect the land, but he wasn't necessarily like, he wasn't like a soldier, but he like wrote these two guys that were like in this area, like, can you like just watch the woods or whatever?
Yeah.
Now the people of the village, I guess they were kind of like liked William. So they would they would give him info. I think they would let him stay with them like when they needed it. And then they would give him supplies. So like the French called him an outlaw. He wasn't an outlaw. But like he was like helping he was like loved by the people, and he was like, I guess like he wasn't like.
Were all outlaws loved by people though?
I don't know. I don't think so, because some outlaws were literally just criminals.
He's called an outlaw.
He's called an outlaw because he's literally banned from the king. I don't know why he is. Like, it doesn't make sense that he would be called an outlaw, except by the French.
Considered an outlaw.
I think the French might have just called him that because they didn't know who the guy was. Like, he wasn't a soldier or anything, and he was just like, he was leading this. No, he was leading this group of random like huntsmen.
So the French called him an outlaw.
Yeah, but the English people didn't.
But that makes sense.
Yeah, because they're like, he's a loyalist, and we're trying to take over and stuff like that. So, but like an outlaw in general, I think that you could be either just a criminal, and so like not necessarily liked by the people because you could be stealing their stuff, or you could be an outlaw because you are loyal to a different king, and so you're banned, but then you're really just like a good person, like Robin Hood was, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, so they're the French are trying to get to London, and they have to go through the Weald. The forest. And
the little woody area.
Some of the French like started to refuse to go through there because of him. Because he was so dangerous. Yeah. And apparently he like didn't take captives. Like, you were dead if he got you.
You get shot.
Yeah. So it was said that he killed about like 1,000 French soldiers who were trying to go through the countryside, which is a lot of men. Especially because it's such a small band of people. Because they don't think it was actually like 1,000 archers.
No.
But because then it would be like, well, everyone shot one person.
One person.
So that's not really, I don't think that would be the case. But anyway, he's kind of like seen as one of the reasons why they're able to like kick Louis VIII out of England. So because he did so much damage. He's like the King of France. So he's trying to take over England at this time.
I don't know my names.
Right. That's okay.
On me.
That's okay.
That's entirely on me for not knowing the names.
To me, it's like there's Henrys, like 10 Henrys.
There's so many Henrys.
And it's also like, okay, you could be Henry, but then you have John, but then he has Henry III. So it's like, it might not be Henry II, Henry III. It could be Henry II has John, and then John has Henry III after his father. Like, because I think that's like, we're going to talk about that in a second. I think that's like the case. And I'm like, that's confusing. Why wouldn't you would think it was his son, but it was his grandson.
Well, no, it's because he's the second.
Yeah.
Like, so you could be named after your great grandfather and be a junior.
True.
Like, because you're a second.
Yeah, I guess so. That's weird though.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Cassingham, he gave back lands that the French had stolen to like the loyalists to England. So he was kind of seen as like giving back to the people, you know what I mean? But one thing that the guy pointed out who was like doing this video I watched, he was like, well, the thing about Robin Hood is that he hated Prince John, whereas Cassingham was like serving Prince John.
Still be well, it's not even serving Prince John, it's
I guess
serving
it could be
your country. Like, just because you're serving your country doesn't mean you're doing it for the king. You're doing it for your friends.
Well, I guess like because he was loyal to the crown, but that could just be I'm loyal to England so that France doesn't take over. So
it could just be I'm not loyal to France. Yeah. So know, like not even I'm loyal to England, but I don't like France.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. True. Okay, so our second guy, everyone has funny names. His name is Fulk Fitzwarren. Fulk Fitzwarren the third.
If it fits, I'm wearing.
Fitzwarren. I don't know if we should call him Fulk or Fitzwarren.
Fitzwarren.
We're gonna call him Fitzwarren. He also lived in the 13th century with King John.
Okay.
He was possibly a good archer. They didn't really focus on that for some reason, and I was like, but isn't that kind of the main thing about Robin Hood? But this guy became an outlaw, so bear with me.
Could it not be the combination of the two of them?
It could be, because they kind of were
together.
Yeah, I mean,
they overlap at all?
They lived at the same time, but I don't think they knew each other. I'm not really sure.
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean they have to know each other, but like they could be like combining the story.
They could be like, oh, Fulk and William.
Fitzwarren and Willie.
Fitzwarren and Willikin.
That's what it is.
So he was something called a marcher lord, which was a role given by the king to essentially guard the king's borders. So at that time, a march or a mark, it was called, was like the area between like two lands, like Wales and England.
Okay.
So like this land, they were like protect the border. And Wales and England at the time had like a shaky relationship. So during the Middle Ages, so it was an important job for these guys to like watch the border,
sure that they have the But Wales isn't big.
No, it's a small country, but I mean,
you never know.
England fought everyone.
Yeah,
but regardless, I'm sure that they were at other points guarding their borders and stuff like that with these guys. But so this Fitzwarren family, they became a wealthy family because their loyalty to some empress and her son,
sounds complicated.
King Henry II. It was complicated, so I just said blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So they were essentially given this. I don't know if it was because of their loyalty to this lady. They were given this like castle, this Whittington Castle in Shropshire, which is such a fun name. Yes, Shropshire.
Shropshire. I thought you said Trumpshire.
Oh, goodness.
I said, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, where?
Huh?
Trumpshire. Shrop with an S. S-H.
Shropshire. Say that 5 times fast,
Say it.
Hannah.
Go ahead, Felina.
No, you say it 5 times.
Shropshire.
She did it. It's hard, though, isn't it? You really have to think.
You start with the 2 SHs. You start being like... I would love to be from Shropshire. It reminds me of Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton. That's another place in England. I love England.
England has weird names. What are you doing over there, England? What you doing?
I don't know.
What you doing?
I don't know. We took a lot of English names, though. Like, yeah. I mean, what do you think that, like, Richmond and, like, all the new places, like, New York. There's York. in England.
Well, yeah.
And
New Mexico is because there's Mexico.
well, yeah, it's not in English. Good job, Felina. She's trying to disprove my point. Not all of it's England.
No, all of it.
A lot of the original, like Virginia after the Virgin Queen, like, because we came over here from England and stuff. Anyway, sorry. We are getting sidetracked as we always do. But anyway, this family,
to be expected.
It is. And it's also 5:00. Anyway, they got some money. They had this castle, and it's funny because like one guy, the first Fitzwarren, he was sassy. He told one of the messengers that came to him from the king that brought him like a summons that he didn't like. He was like, "I want you to eat that summons."
Oh.
Yeah, told him to eat it. So
did they have paper back then? Or was it like leather?
It was probably like a scroll, but it was probably like hide of some sort. Like
Ew.
Animal hide. He said, "You eat that summons," and the wax seal apparently that was on it.
Oh.
I don't think the guy did it, but he was,
He said, "Heard, I'll leave."
Yeah. So this was our guy's grandfather who told that guy that. And I just wanted to share that fact with you. It's kind of random, but
he's got spunk.
He's got spunk. So this family, they are living at this castle, but Fulk, the third Fitzwarren, was raised actually like in the household of Henry II, which was like one of the kings. So he was like raised in the court. And it's thought that he was like a page, which I think a page is like an apprentice to a knight.
Yeah.
And he actually, as a child, he formed a friendship with the youngest son, John. So King John / Prince John.
Okay.
Now, they got on bad terms during this as children.
Roggy.
Over a game of chess.
Wow. Well, I mean, you're working with royalty. What do you expect?
It's a serious thing. So Fulk won the game.
Oh.
So
how dare he?
Right. How dare he, first of all, because he's the prince.
Beat the future king.
Right. And hopefully, that's the thing is like they didn't know he was going to be king, really. He was just going to be a prince. He was the younger son.
Yeah.
And that's why they even named him like John Lackland because he wouldn't have land. Isn't that's horrible?
Cruel.
No wonder he turned out the way he was.
Why you gotta bully a child?
Right. Like you're the second son, so you really are worth nothing. Like what?
You're not gonna have any land.
But his father liked his the youngest son.
But first of all, I am the brother of the king. If you think he's not gonna bestow upon me a title and land, you are wrong.
Well, I think his father like gave him that name. I thought he did, which is even worse.
Talk about
Lapland.
Like needing some therapy.
Yeah. Poor kid probably didn't have the opportunity for therapy.
Yeah, that wasn't a thing.
That wasn't a thing.
In the 12th century.
In the 1200s or whatever.
It's the 1200s? So the 13th century then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, you're right. It's right at the end. Yeah, because he ruled 1199. So yeah, it is like the 1100s. My bad. Now, during a game of chess, as we were talking about, I almost said chest.
Chest. During a game of chess.
Don't play that game. So he won a game of chess against John. And apparently John was really mad about it. And he took the board and like crushed it over Fulk's head.
Oh, no.
And then Fulk apparently proceeded to beat the crap out of John.
Oh, no.
And then when John went and complained to his father.
So he like beat up the prince.
Yeah, he beat up the prince.
So that's like outlaw.
Yeah, but he's like, they're kids
at
the same time.
That's true. I forgot that aspect.
But he goes to his father and he like complains about what happened. And apparently his father like calls him like a weakling. Like you're acting.
Because he's a brat.
Like a weakling.
Because he is.
Right. So, but John never really forgave Fulk for this like happening. So, go ahead.
He never forgave Fulk for beating him in a game of chess.
Well, because from that, he was like, his father called him a weakling. He made him look stupid and he beat him up. So,
yeah, but he's the king.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you get the last laugh.
Right.
Homie.
You will eventually, maybe. Well, he's a kid. And so he decides, I guess this is where they had a falling out.
Okay.
I think it's a pretty funny story. Can you imagine like not being friends anymore because a game
of chess?
Right.
Yeah, no, I couldn't.
So where did I go?
He never forgave Fitzwarren.
Right. Okay, so they grow up, obviously, and Fitzwarren inherits his father's lands after he dies, obviously. Naturally,
as a child does.
Right. But apparently his dad, the second, had left a lot of land disputes in his wake. So he left behind a lot of people fighting for his lands, or like, actually, like, this belongs to this guy. And another king, some king before, had given away Whittington Castle to another family. So Fitzwarren, our guy, is trying to, like, get it back. Okay, get the lands back, get the castle back.
So wait, so a king gave away his home? Like, was he not living in the home at the time?
I don't really know how it worked during that time, because they're like castles and they're like technically like, I feel like people at the time had like different places they also lived.
Yeah.
And so I think that maybe he like owed taxes or something, and like maybe he gave it away because he couldn't pay it or something. Because it sounded like there were like land disputes, like people were like, this is actually mine now, like they were having, I don't really know all the details of it.
Gotcha.
But I'm assuming at some point he was like, okay, this family, you don't get it anymore, I'm going to give it to this family. I don't know why.
Because they weren't paying their taxes.
Probably.
Okay, gotcha.
So, and I don't know why, because I thought they were pretty rich, but maybe this second guy, he was bad with money or something.
Oh, it sounds about right.
Right. So once Fulk or Fitzwarren guy inherits his father's estate, well, technically he didn't inherit it because he didn't get it, but he tried to pay something called a feudal relief, which was essentially a tax that you paid your overlord to get your lands back. So like if they were given to someone else.
Gotcha.
I don't really understand medieval taxes.
So then that land is now stolen from the other people.
Right. So you're trying to buy it back.
Where are they going to live?
Right. So apparently it was given to these people, like, it's not rightfully theirs, but like they have possession of it for some reason or other, because it's obviously still like technically theirs because he can buy it back.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. I don't know all the
we don't know the politics.
I don't know the politics of it all. But anyway, he tries to buy it with 100 marks, which I don't know how much money that is, but
it's money.
Yeah, it's money. So, however, John is king at this time.
Oh, no. So he gets denied.
So he says, no, I'm actually going to give this to this enemy or rival of your family, the Fitzwarren family, some other guy, and he only makes him pay like half the amount that Fulk just offered to buy it back. So he like gives it to this other guy, and it's like out of spite too.
That's so rude. Because he beat you at a game of chess?
Yes.
Boy, you better shut up, sit down, and give him his house.
Give him his house.
When you were, what, 8? And now you're, what, 30? Bro.
Right. But I don't know. I don't know how old he is, but
I don't know
probably.
how old he is either. But, like, good grief.
So, a year after this instance, I guess he kind of rebels against John because, obviously.
Well, yeah, how
dare you not give me back my...
He sold his land.
So, he goes away into the woods, okay? And he gathers a following of men.
Nice.
I think it's like about 50 men.
Holy crap.
I read 50, and then in a video it said 15. I was like, it has to be 50, not just 15 men. Come on. So
only 15?
Yes. I think it was like 50.
15 is a lot of men, though.
I guess so, if you get a following. And I think it was like...
From the woods?
From the woods. I'm sure he like gathered outlaws or something, right? Because why are they in the woods? Like,
yeah, 15 feels like a lot of people to gather in the woods.
A lot of people are living in the woods at these times. 50 men is a lot, I guess. So I guess you're right. But now all this is true. Like, this is history.
Yes.
But there were some stories around Fulk that like they thought were like kind of romanticized. And one of them is like very Robin Hood like, where the king, John, is like on a hunting party or whatever they call it. It's like on a hunt with his hunting party. And he goes into the woods, and apparently like Fulk and his men
attack him.
Right. Like they're dressed as like peasants and something called coal burners, which I don't know what that is. I guess it's someone who burns coal.
I guess so.
I don't know why that would be a job, but they like disguise themselves, and they find the king and his hunting party, and they're like, oh, we saw this really big like elk, like this deer going through the woods. That way you should go. And so the king listens, and then it ends up being like an ambush, and Fulk and his men capture the king.
Yeah.
Well, they don't kill him, but they take him. Yeah, they capture him.
They didn't go quite as dark as I did.
No, and they kill him.
And supposedly they're outlaws. Yeah, I'd like to... Yeah, some outlaw over there. They didn't even have the guts to kill the king.
Felina's like, and they kill him, and it's done. they capture...
And they get rid of John, and that's why everybody likes him.
And that's the end of the story. But they take him back to their hideout or whatever it was, and make him like confess before the soldiers and outlaws that he will pardon all of them and their men to be like released. And he will give Fulk back his estate. Now, this is obviously probably didn't actually happen.
Right.
But in 1203, the king did pardon Fulk and his men.
Did give him back his estate.
Yeah, so he was able to like buy back his land after this.
So it happened.
Now they don't know why they did this. It was thought that maybe King John was just like, this is just too expensive to keep fighting this random guy when I really need him like to go back to being a martyr lord, like to protect, like he's too valuable to be like fighting with like this.
I need him to protect the borders.
Yeah. So after this, he helped Fitzwarren helped other nobles like get back their lands.
Oh,
so like give them back to the
why.
poor. Yeah, and then he also
it's not necessarily giving back to the poor, but it's
like to the nobles, but still like. Well, and some of the nobles at this time, I think they maybe had titles, but not necessarily a lot of money. So that could be that they were just, this was technically my inheritance.
Yeah.
And I didn't, because some of them were not. Because I think even like Fitzwarren like ended up marrying this like rich lady that he had like pay a dowry for. So I'm sure like he wasn't like necessarily
hurting for money.
Right. Or he was actually like falling into hard times, and I don't know. But
I thought the dowry the dad paid to the spouse.
Well, the dad was dead, probably. Folks' father died.
No, I mean, I thought how dowries worked.
Oh, you have to pay to marry the wife. Essentially, if you're a man. Like to the dad.
Now, this doesn't make sense because a lot of like take into account Bridgerton. The dad gambled away all their money and he lost the girls' dowries. I thought the dad paid the husband.
Oh, I always heard that the
husband paid the dad.
Oh,
I always thought that the dad.
That might have been her inheritance, maybe. And if they lose their inheritance, because you pay a dowry to marry the wife. Are we looking this up?
Yeah, we're looking this up.
I thought it was because he.
The bride's father paid a dowry to the groom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Because if you lost your dowry, no one would marry you,
right? Because
they're not going to get any money unless they like loved you.
I swear that I've heard that with men giving money to the fathers too. Okay. Well, anyway, I didn't write that down, so that might be wrong. I thought he paid money to marry her, and maybe it was because she was a noble,
maybe,
or she was rich. I don't know. Maybe it was like, I don't know.
Or maybe it was because she was betrothed to someone else. And he was like, no, I want her.
No, I'm going to buy her. Which is not.
Literally.
Literally.
They're literally paying to get rid of you. That's what it was.
Right. Like, that's like...
Because I remember thinking, like, how rude is it?
That's almost more messed up. Like,
well, that's what I was like... I remember thinking when I first found out about it, I was like, how rude is it that, like, your family would literally pay someone to get you off their hands? Like, be like, I will pay you to marry her, please.
Marry her.
Or like, oh, she only got married because her dowry's big. Like, she's not attractive.
Right.
But
that's so rude.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah.
So anyway, after all this, he returns to serving John. So he's kind of reconciled with John.
Okay. So did John still hate him or like?
I don't think so. Okay. I think they've kind of made
They made peace.
They made peace
over an 8-year-old chess match.
Right. However long ago it was. But here's the kicker. You know how we were talking about how 20 years old is a middle-aged.
Yeah.
I read this 2 places. Apparently this guy, he possibly lived until he was 98.
Holy crap. People don't even live till they're 98 now.
Today, yeah. So I was like, what?
Like, that's like, if someone tells me that someone died at 98, I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's old, yeah. So I don't know if that's true. But I was like,
impressive.
That's crazy in and of itself. So yeah. So I am personally of the mind that Fulk kind of fits more than Willikin.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if they're in the same time period, even if they didn't know each other, people were probably combining their stories.
Combining the story, yeah. And who knows, they may have referred to them. I don't know. I didn't read this. They might have referred to them as Robin Hood at one point, because
maybe
they were technically, I mean, Fulk was definitely outlawed. So he could have been considered an outlaw.
Yeah, but I feel like Willikin fits better because he was probably, he was an archer. He attacked the French people, and he probably was wearing a hood. He was probably wearing green to blend in with like the forest.
And they did like the attacks like Robin Hood did, like where they would come out of the woods, shoot, and then go back in and stuff like that. But the reason why like he doesn't seem to fit as well to me is because he literally never was an outlaw. He didn't have any like beef with the crown. Like he didn't go into hiding or anything like that. That's the one thing that was kind of like, eh. But
that we know of.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Maybe he did later in life, or maybe he did and then they got rid of it. And then what?
What if, because I don't think Willikin ever came in like direct contact with King John, but King John did like send him like letters like to ask for protection.
So what if John is? What if they're the same person?
Oh, what if they're the same person? Or what if King John was the one who started the Robin Hood stuff?
Why would he do that?
I don't know. To give an excuse why he sucks as a prince that this guy is robbing.
Well, what I was going to say was maybe it is the same person.
Maybe
it's like he was an outlaw, but then he went and he was fighting this war
to protect,
and then, or maybe even he was fighting it to get back and then like reveal, I did this for you.
Right.
You know,
it could be.
And then he got his thing back. And so he stopped.
He's like, okay, I got my lands back. I'm good.
Yeah. I'm good. We're good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what,
I don't know.
That's Robin Hood. We don't know.
We don't know.
That's the thing.
If you know Robin Hood, or maybe you're a descendant of Robin Hood, or someone who
that would be cool.
Who might be Robin Hood, or if you just,
like Robin Hood.
Or
if you have more information about like the history, if there are more people that are out there who are considered to be a type of Robin Hood figure. There were other ones. There just wasn't like a lot about them.
Right. So if you know more about them, you can reach out to us at lattespodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Facebook and Instagram under Lattes on My Mind and give us a chat.
Yeah.
And don't forget to like or subscribe or follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Audible, and Apple.
Please do.
Please.
And maybe don't, get rid of your friends because you lost a game to them.
Yeah, maybe don't be a bratty prince and go whining to your dad because your friend beat you up because you were mad.
Game nights and friendship.
Yeah. Game nights and friendship. Yeah. Yeah, be good people. Be good friends.
Steal from the rich and feed the poor.
Steal from the rich and feed the poor.